Hey Retro fans, welcome to another episode of Retro Gaming Memories. In this episode I'm going to talk about something that's all but forgotten nowadays in kind of modern gaming, but something that was really prolific when we were kind of kids, you know, the sort of 8-bit era, and it's something that I really miss, and that is compilations. Now, when I was a kid, you know, like most people, I didn't have much money. So the mainstay of my Amstrad collection, certainly, I didn't have many Atari 2600 games, but the Amstrad was really when I started kind of collecting games or buying lots of games, and that was primarily because you had the sort of budget range, the pocket money range, you know, $1.99 and $2.99 games. It made it affordable to save up your pocket money and go and buy a game. And when I got a little bit older, you know, getting a little bit sort of pocket money and Christmas money, things like that, I would save up and go and buy, you know, a few games. I would very rarely buy a full price game. If I had £10, you know, Christmas money or something like that, it's very rare that I would go and buy a full price game, because obviously then you were only getting one game for your money. What I would tend to do is buy 5 budget games, 5 $1.99 games, or maybe as the kind of Amstrad's life grew a little bit, I would buy re-releases of full price games like the Hit Squad games and things like that. So I was getting the full price games just for $1.99, $2.99. And I had a huge collection of kind of budget software when I was a kid, because, like I say, it was pretty much all I could afford. But what I discovered, you know, as I kind of stopped going through the kind of budget bits, because I never really, like I say, I never really went to the full price bit. But when I kind of meandered from the budget section round the corner to the full price games, I discovered the wonderful world of compilations. And this was a revelation to me, because like the budget stuff, you were getting, you know, you were paying £10 or whatever, but you were getting 4, 5, 6, 7, any number of games for your £10 or £12 or whatever. You know, they obviously fluctuated in price, but this was amazing to me. I thought, right, all of a sudden I can buy, you know, lots of full price games, because at the time the compilations, the game came out sort of full price, and then what you generally found is a few months later, 6 months later or something, it came out as part of a compilation, and then maybe a year later or whatever, can't remember the exact timings, it was obviously 30, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, Dave. You know, it was later on that it came out to the budget range, so the compilation was a really good way to get lots of full price games not long after they were released, and I loved it. So I had many compilations when I was a kid. And it got to the point, you know, laterally in my Amstrad's life, I'd started working. I was a labourer and then an apprentice electrician. Left school at 15 and became an apprentice electrician. So I had a little bit of disposable income, so I was buying compilations. And it got to the point that I had so many Amstrad games, I wish I could remember how many I actually had, because it got to the point that I was almost buying anything. You know, I would go in and I thought, I just want to buy a game. And that carried on through the Amiga years and a little bit with the Sega Mega Drive stuff, but certainly with Amiga, got to the point that I was just desperate to buy something. And sometimes I bought games that I would never really even play, but I just loved it. And I'm going to do a separate video on Amiga games, because there's something I want to talk about, that another thing that I miss about modern games, but we'll save that for another video. Anyway, I've got a few compilations here, not just for the Amstrad, but we'll start off with the Amstrad, because, like I say, it was my main machine, and I loved it. And, you know, a few of these span different consoles, but some of them were any Amstrad specific. Well, some versions of them are Amstrad specific. So, anyway, we'll start with probably the most famous compilation ever made, and that is They Sold a Million. This was Ocean Software Projects Ultimate and US Gold under the Hit Squad label, and this was one of my first entrees into owning compilations. It wasn't the first compilation I'd ever seen. I've got that here next, but it was the first one I ever owned, and it was amazing, because Jet Set Willy, I remember all my pals that had Spectrums going on about Jet Set Willy and Manic Miner, and I'd played Manic Miner and quite enjoyed it. but you know, I heard about Jet Set Willy and it was more of the same but bigger and all that kind of stuff, and I was quite jealous of my pals that had it on the Spectrum, and I didn't really know it was available on the Amstrad until this. So when I saw Jet Set Willy was on it, I thought, brilliant, Daley Thompson's Decathlon. And the great thing was, is compilations were a brilliant way to discover games, because I had never played any of these, believe it or not, when I got this. So, you know, it was amazing. So fired up Daley Thompson's Decathlon, and you know, the joystick snapper that is Daley Thompson's Decathlon. Many joysticks were ruined with that game. Combat School was another killer, Jesus Christ. But Decathlon, a nice home port take on the sort of track and field game that was in the arcades. But Beachhead, what a game, my god, I loved that. That first section where you were on the sort of big guns shooting down the planes and stuff, and then had to bomb the other ships. It was just so great. I absolutely loved it, and I still love playing it. And Saberwolf, I never really played that much, to be honest, but it was nice to have sort of Spectrum ports, because I thought, at this kind of time in my life, I thought that Spectrum games were Spectrum games. I never really saw the kind of crossover. I was young and stupid, really. But, you know, Saberwolf and Jet Set Willy to me were Spectrum games, but to be able to play them on your Amstrad, brilliant. So it was an amazing compilation, and I really loved it. And you know, it came in obviously the clamshell, and seeing that kind of double tape thing, oh, it was great. Yeah, and bizarrely they just kind of copied it's like Inception on the inside, and you've got your instruction leaflet and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, absolutely loved They Sold a Million, and it was an amazing compilation to have. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was only $9.95, which was the same as a full price game. So to get that for $9.95 was brilliant. So They Sold a Million was the first compilation that I owned, but the first compilation that I really played, or that I remember playing, actually belonged to my pal. And that is 10 Computer Hits. Now, I loved this back in the day, and I used to borrow it off him all the time. It's kind of done, it's by Bo Jolly, and it's kind of done in the style of one of these, I'm sure there was an album, you know, 10 80s pop hits or something like that, with, I don't know, Tiffany and Adamant or whatever it was. But it was done in the same style of thing. So I don't know, it was, like I say, it was Bo Jolly that did this, but I don't know if the sort of parent company made a record of stuff. Anyway, I digress. The reason I love this is because there's 3 brilliant games on here, and one of them I reckon most people in the UK probably played this game first on the BBC in school, and that's Chucky Egg. Chucky Egg is on this. That was my first experience of Chucky Egg, and I absolutely loved it. And so when I found out you could get the Amstrad version, I borrowed this and I loved it. And there's 2 other brilliant games on here, clones, arcade clones. Killer Gorilla, it's hard to say that, Killer Gorilla and Defend or Die. And Killer Gorilla is a Donkey Kong clone, and it's brilliant. And Defend or Die is Defender, cunningly. And Defend or Die is a really good conversion of Defender, or clone. How they didn't get sued or whatever, I think it was Alligator that did it originally, and how they didn't get into trouble for it, because it's almost arcade perfect. It's absolutely brilliant. Killer Gorilla I haven't played for many years, but I remember it being a really good Donkey Kong clone, and Chucky Egg was absolutely brilliant. And there's other games on here, Pinball Wizard, Flight Path 737. I remember seeing all the adverts for Flight Path 737 in the magazines and stuff, and thinking, cool, that looks really complicated. Yeah, I just thought, no, that's far too complicated for me. The other ones I can't really remember. Ghouls, don't know. Heroes of Can, I think that was a text adventure, so never got played by me. Special Operations, I don't remember anything about. Jack and the Beanstalk, can't remember. And Covenant, I do remember that. That had massive sprites in it, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I mean, it's good to sometimes dip in, because, you know, I've bought this for the games that I remember, like I say, the 3 that I mentioned at the start of this bit. But the other games on here, sometimes you dip in, sometimes you find a little kind of little gem in there. Sometimes there's a lot of filler and crap, but sometimes there is a little gem. So it's nice to you know, to kind of dip in and have a little go. It's like finding an album that you've never heard before, but you know a couple of the main tracks off it, and then finding that some of the other tracks on the album are actually really good. So yeah, anyway, that's worth a little look. I don't know, it came out on all the formats. I mean, you know, C64 and Spectrum and everything, and there was probably like Acorn versions of it, and BBC and all the other kind of platforms probably had their own version of 10 Computer Hits, because I think that's quite an early one. It's about 1985, I think. Yeah, 1985. So it would be interesting to see what the different versions of that actually were. You know, how the games differed, because that happened occasionally on compilations. You know, you got C64 exclusives or Spectrum exclusives or whatever extra games and stuff. So yeah, pretty cool. So the next one I wanted to talk about was this guy. Now this has got a few cracking games on it, and I remember getting this, the Home Computer Club, the famed Home Computer Club in the UK. My mum and dad had offered to buy me a game for Christmas, and I remember getting the little catalogue that used to come through the post and having a flick through it and seeing this thing, and it was really expensive. To me, it seemed really expensive. It's $14.95. But my mum and dad says, well, we'll get you that for your Christmas if you want. You can order it for your Christmas. So, not wanting to pass up a chance of getting a chunk of games, I said, yes please, that would be splendid. So the compilation that I am talking about is a US Gold compilation, and it is the Gold Collection 2. Came in a huge case, big chunky thing, with the tapes, which is nice, or your disc. Did this have disc? No, I think the C64 disc's a big 5 1/4 inch fitted in there, but that's kind of where the instructions sat on this. Anywho, I'll keep those instructions out actually, because I'm going to talk about them in a second. Yeah, there was some cracking games on this, a couple that I knew and a couple that didn't. So Kung Fu Master was the main thing that I wanted to get it for, because I loved Kung Fu Master in the arcade. I remember being slightly disappointed with the conversion when I first loaded it, but I've played it since. There's one of my videos is me playing Kung Fu Master, and it's actually a pretty solid port. It's not too bad. So I don't know what I was thinking when I was a kid, but it's actually not too bad. And there's some other crackers on here. Gunfight I'd never played, and that's oh god, what were they called? It's no Imagine, it's the other guys that became rare. It's went totally in my head. You're probably shouting at me right now. Ultimate, good god, Ultimate Play the Game, Jesus. Yeah, Gunfight, it was another isometric thing, but it was one that I actually quite enjoyed playing. I was never really into sort of fantasy type games, so Night Lord and Sabre Wolf and things kind of passed me by until I was a little older. But Gunfight is a cowboy. So there was sort of slightly arcade elements to it, you know, there was quick draws and all that kind of stuff. But it also had great humour, because your little guy kind of wandered about and all that kind of stuff, wandered about the town, but you could get a horse, and if you picked up the horse, it was basically like a speed up, power up, but the guy had like a horse, but it was like a rubber ring thing that you would find in a swimming pool for kids. So it was just totally nuts. It was brilliant. I loved that. Night Lore, cunningly, another Ultimate game. Was it? Aye. Yes, it was. Night Lore's the one that you change into. You change into a werewolf, is it? Aye. Can't remember. Desert Fox was an absolute cracker. Lots of tanks and shooting. It was a bit like a really souped up Beachhead, which was cracking. Bounty Bob, that was a hidden gem for me. I'd never played Bounty Bob before, but what a cracking game. Sequel to Minor 2049er. Minor 2049, I think it is, whatever one it is. But yeah, sort of platform game where it's like Q*bert meets Manic Miner. You have to basically run along the platform to change all the bits of the platform to a different colour, and you have to do that throughout the whole level to pass. But you're up against the clock, and there's little minis that you can only hit with shovels or something. But it's a cracking game. really good. Quest Probe, I've never played. I loaded it up. It's a text adventure, so not my kind of thing at all. But another cracking set of games, and I spent many hours playing all of those. And I loved one little thing that I loved. I've got an instruction sheet here, and the thing that I loved was, let's just fold it back up to here. Hopefully you'll get this without the glare if I do that. Maybe that way? I don't know. Oh, this isn't going to work, is it? So yeah, the thing I loved about the instructions in this was that the Kung Fu Master instructions had little pictures, the little pictures of the guy and some of the enemies and stuff, and it was really simple drawings, as you'll see, but I loved that it wasn't just, you know, showing you up, down, kick, whatever. It actually had little kind of pictures, and I know that's a really simple, stupid thing, but I just quite liked that, and I used to sit and copy them. I used to draw them, and I remember ER Kung Fu was the same. It had the same type of sort of drawing things, and I used to copy them, and yeah, just draw these little characters out. So little crazy things like that, you know, I've got a little bit of nostalgia for me in these instruction sheets, so it's pretty cool. Let me plop this down here. Hang on, excuse me. Let's do this one next. This next little compilation, I remember being uptown with my uncle. He was kind of visiting, and we went uptown together, and we're popping about the shops, and he offered to buy me a game, and I graciously accepted. And I was looking at the full price games and all that kind of stuff, because he said, you know, it's fine, get whatever you want, you know. And so I was looking at all the games, and I was like, oh man, there's so many to choose from. And then this caught my eye, and I was like, oh, it was $12.95 though, so it was, you know, £3 extra. And I remember saying to him, I says, do you think you could lend me £3? I'll give you, you know, pocket money advance type thing. And he says, don't be daft, just get it, you know. So he bought me it. And I remember sitting on the bus home reading instructions and everything, and just devouring this, and couldn't wait to get home and play it. And that is We Are the Champions. Another Ocean compilation, fantastic. And there's some belters of games on here. Super Sprint was absolutely brilliant. First time, had I played it in arcade? I don't think I'd even played it in arcade, but played it here. Renegade, IK Plus, Rampage, which I'd never played, but that was a cracking game, and Barbarian. Now, Barbarian, it was the first time I had ever played Barbarian, was on this compilation. I think I'd played Renegade before. Had I played IK Plus? I definitely played Renegade. I think the rest of them were new to me, which was great, discovering these great games. I mean, there's 3 fighting games on here. Who doesn't love that? I love my fighting games. Rampage was great fun, Atari classic. I'd never seen anything like that before, but it was great fun. And Super Sprint, a nice little racing game that you could play with your pals. But Barbarian, when it loaded up, eventually, it takes about 15 minutes to load. But when it loaded up and the sort of demo started playing, these two guys with this sword fight, I'm like, this looks awesome, you know. As a kid, to be able to kind of play, you know, with swords and have fights and stuff, I thought, this looks amazing. And I would have been about 12, I think, when this came out. So, you know, started a game, looked at the controls and thought, good God, there's loads of things you can do. I don't know, you know, trying to get used to the controls. Trying like the Web of Death, which is swinging your sword around about you in a figure 8 and things, and being able to actually block, getting good enough to block some of the hits that the other guy was kind of trying to do upon you. And I loved it. And I remember doing, you know, the pull away from and press fire does a flying neck chop. And I remember doing it and thinking, what's this? And the guy swung around, and that noise, it took the guy's head clean off, the as his head rolls across the thing. He falls to his knees with a spurt of blood out his neck and collapses in a heap. And I remember actually feeling physically sick. I remember thinking, oh God, that's so realistic, that's horrible, that's just God. And I do remember actually feeling sick. To my 12-year-old, you know, brain, I don't know what happened, but then it rapidly, you know, got over it and thought this is just the best thing ever, and spent the next, you know, 10 games just left and fire, doing the spinning thing, trying to hit, and just, you know, that one where the other barbarian almost seems to take a little step back and the sword just glides past his throat, which sounds totally bloodthirsty, but it's just brilliant. And you know, the most pleasing for me, and I remember, and I've done this a few times, and when you get it, it's just, oh, it's one of these little moments when the other guy, whether you're playing against a friend or you're playing a computer, when your opponent is doing the web of death, which is supposed to block pretty much everything, they're doing the web of death, and you time it, and you just get that, take their head straight off right through it. That's just like the ultimate, you know, just to time it perfectly and get the head chop, the flying neck chop through a web of death, is just one of the most satisfying moments in video game history for me. So I rapidly got over the nausea of decapitating this other guy, and it became one of the best things that I could ever do on a computer game. Which sounds horribly violent. Every time I describe these kind of things, it sounds horribly violent, you know, and I'm a right bloodthirsty and bloodlust kind of guy, but I'm not. I just enjoy these kind of moments in games, you know, and it's totally bizarre, but absolutely loved Barbarian after that. Once I got over the nausea, like I say, Renegade I already had and I loved it, and IK Plus I'd never played, but I saw it more like the first international karate on the Amstrad was a bit of a sort of Spectrum port, if I remember correctly. It was pretty good. I mean, it was a nice enough game, but the graphics weren't astounding or anything. And IK Plus always felt more like a sequel to Exploding Fist to me, bizarrely. But to have those three fighters jumping about and doing their thing, and the little kind of rounds in between, and all the stuff that was going on in the backdrop, you know, you had Pac-Man going across the backdrop and little worms and things popping out and all sorts of stuff. And the fact you could do key presses to drop one of the guy's trousers and stuff, it was just hilarious little things. And IK Plus, it's not stayed up there for me. It's a great fighting game, but it's sometimes it's a little bit too frantic for me. I prefer a little bit more strategy in my fighting games, where you've got a little bit, you know, time to think about what you're doing and get stuck in. So yeah, but it's such a good compilation, and I would thoroughly recommend it to anybody. Yeah, one of my absolute favourite compilations. Which takes me on to something that I absolutely love. Now, if you've watched any of my videos and can see over my shoulder, you'll know that I love arcade games. You know, those were my favourite things when I was a kid. I love my Atari console, but the excitement of going to an arcade and just having this darkened hall of lights and cacophony of sounds, and just the possibilities that were there, you know, being able to drive things or shoot things or fly things or whatever, you know, it was just like your imagination went into overdrive. So I absolutely loved arcades, and there was always this little kind of bit of sadness as we were coming home, you know, after a day out at the beach or whatever. I used to go to Portobello quite a lot, down to the arcades in Edinburgh, and when, you know, coming home, having a chippy on the bus, sitting eating your fish and chips in the bus, that little tinge of sadness that you were going home and you knew your computer wasn't as good as arcade cabinets, you know. But a lot of these companies did their best to bring you representations of the games, and some of the arcade ports were brilliant, and some of them were horrible. Double Dragon, I'm looking at you. But there were quite a lot of good arcade conversions, and quite a lot of them ended up on this guy. Tato's Coin Up Hits, or Taito if you want to be pedantic about the whole thing. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 Coin Op hits on here, and some absolute belters. Renegade again. Renegade's turned up again. Renegade's on pretty much every compilation, but there were some crackers on here. So some games are recognised from the arcade. So there's Rastan and Arkanoid, which I played, and Bubble Bobble was an arcade game that I used to play. But then there was games on here that I'd never heard of. So there's Flying Shark, Legend of Cage, and Slap Fight. And I had never heard of any of those before. Legend of Cage, turns out, is a sort of fantasy ninja game. It's very much like the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Cheeseburger, or whatever it's called. That mad film, I hated that film, to be honest. But the kind of more mythical elements of martial arts, where the guys can fly up into the trees, you know, and run across wires and jump between trees and all that. So Legend of Cage kind of played into that, and you could do huge jumps into things, and you were firing shurikens all over the place and fighting ninjas and stuff. And it's a great little game. There's lightning effects in it which were really effective, that I really liked in the game. So it's a great little kind of alternative platformy shooty thing. It's really hard to describe. It's quite a unique concept, but it's good fun, and the Amstrad ports is pretty nice. Flying Shark I'd never played, and it's very orange on the Amstrad, but it's a great little shooter. You're in this, although the picture on the cover art there shows you in a sort of Spitfire type thing, you're in a biplane, if I remember correctly, so a bit bizarre, but yeah, it's a great shooter, and there's tanks come out from under trees and things, and you can blow the tops off the tanks, and then the bottom will still move, and you can shoot that for extra points and things. It's a nice power-up system, good enemies and things, and just quite a lot going on. It's a really nice shooter, and it became one of my favourites. Never played it in arcade, never played it on any other system, only ever played the Amstrad version. Like I say, it's a bit kind of orange, a bit monochromatic, but it's a really nice game. It's good, great fun, and I totally recommend it. But the other game that's on here is Slap Fight. Had never heard of Slap Fight. Now it's got another name in the arcade, and that's totally escaped me what the hell it's called. But it's not called Slap Fight in the arcade. But when I loaded that up, I was like, it's like having an arcade cabinet in your house. The graphics are really nice, because it's full screen. Is it full screen? I think it is. As in, it uses the full screen. But it's basically got sort of 2/3 of the screen as you look at it is the kind of playfield, but over to the right hand side of the playfield is your sort of lives and the score and a little bit of high score table. So it feels like an arcade cabinet because it's got all these little elements at the side. But it's a great game. The beautiful graphics. It's a vertical scrolling shooter if you've never played it, but it's great graphics on the Amstrad, really good music, and if I remember correctly, the music plays throughout while you're playing the game. And I think that annoyed some people, but I quite liked it because there was so much going on, and you get loads of good power-ups and things, and it's a little bit like Raiden, but not quite. But it's a really cracking game. And it's well worth a look. So this compilation is just got so many cracking games on it, and it's definitely one to check out. And I'll pop that down there just now. But the thing I loved about compilations is that you got loads of stuff. You know, you got loads of tapes. It was a bit of a pain having to scroll through, and basically you had to play each game at least once so you could get the counter markers for it, so that you could then skip the games that you didn't like going forward. But yeah, getting a box with loads of tapes and loads of manuals and things like that, it just felt like loads of stuff, and it was great. That's part of something that I've loved about compilations and kind of bigger box things that I'm going to talk about in my next video probably, or one of my upcoming videos anyway. But it's just the fact that you got loads of stuff. When you bought a game and you got a tape, it was alright, it was nice, but when you got loads of stuff, it was great. Just felt like you were getting something not for nothing, but you were getting your money's worth. Excuse me while I have a drink. And that's Ribena, not red wine, by the way. Even though I just slurred all that, it's not red wine, honest. So the 8-bits kind of were ruled by compilations, and rightly so. They were fantastic, and that did kind of continue a little bit. So you moved on, and you had things like the Sega Mega Drive. You had these kind of, a bit of glare there, compilations like Mega Games. There was a Mega Games series think there was 3 of those released, and then they started like it wasn't called Hits for Six, but they managed to squeeze 6 games on one cartridge when the Mega Drive 2 came out. So there were a few compilations for the Mega Drive, and I think the SNES probably had them, but I didn't have a SNES back in the day. So there was definitely some compilations on the Mega Drive, but they were a lot sort of rarer, which was a shame. But you got things like Help on the Amiga, and this has got this loads of stuff that I love. But yeah, I mean, that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games for whatever it was. It would have been $14.99 or something like that. You know, Sensei Soccer, Pushover, Road Rash, Cool Spot, Desert Strike, and The Humans. And it was a charity compilation. But some cracking games. Sensible Soccer, by then I think pretty much everybody had Sensible Soccer. It was the renegade of the Amiga era. It turned up on everything, and ultimately Desert Strike ended up on being on pretty much every compilation that you could find. But it was nice to have, you know, to be able to get like 6 discs, 6 games. And the great thing is that there's so many discs, and a big thick instruction manual and all that kind of stuff. This harkens into my next video. Like I say, that it's going to be talking about stuff, stuff in boxes, which all sounds a bit mysterious, but all will be revealed. But yeah, and you know, the compilation thing, it went on through the PC. When I became a PC gamer, I used to have many compilations. And you got some cracking things, you know. I got like the id Anthology, which was every game that ID or id had ever released up to and including Quake at the time, and it was in a big box, it was like a board game box. And you got a t-shirt and a little pewter statue of one of the Doom demons, and dog tags and an audio CD and all sorts of things. And like I say, every single game they ever released, every version of Doom, all complete. And it came out at the same time. I got that for my Christmas one year. A year that I had been struck down with tetanus, bizarrely. I jumped off a ladder and stood on a nail and it went right through my foot, and I got tetanus, which knocked me out over Christmas, which was great fun. So I had this box set and I couldn't play the bloody thing because I was totally sensitive to light. I couldn't even look at my computer. But yeah, it was a great box set, and it came out just after Quake. I think Quake maybe came out in like November or something like that, and it came out just at Christmas. And Quake was, whatever it was, $29.99, and I think the id Anthology box set was £35, and it included Quake, so it was a no-brainer to get that. And I wish I'd kept it, because it goes for quite a lot of money now. I kept all the discs. I didn't keep any of the bits and bobs, and I had all the discs, which I ended up just giving to my pal because I don't play PC games anymore. But you got all these great things like the Jane's Anthology, which was all flight simulators, you know, all different things. There was like Apache simulators and all that kind of stuff, as well as warplane games, and the collector's packs that were great on the PC. You know, like the Dungeon Keeper kit, where you got Dungeon Keeper 1 and 2 and all that kind of stuff. So I loved all that kind of thing. So yeah, it carried on through the PC, but after the PC market, you know, when consoles became prolific, apart from the sort of retro compilations on the PS2 and things like that, you don't really get these type of compilations on anything past the PC. You know, the PS2 and the Xbox and stuff didn't, that I can remember anyway, have any compilations, and certainly the PS3 and PS4 and stuff don't have these type of compilations. Yeah, you get things like the Prince of Persia trilogy or the God of War series and things like that, where you can get the 3 or 4 games, which is great, but you don't get sort of, you know, one company using their IP to to give you these kind of mixed compilations. I know you get like the Capcom Classics or the Rare thingamabob on Xbox One, which has got all the kind of Rare and Ultimate games, but mixed compilations I'm talking about. You know, you wouldn't see a PlayStation 4 compilation that had the original Uncharted and Christ, I can't think of any other PlayStation games now. Gran Turismo or something like that. You know, 4 or 5 totally different games for different publishers on one thing. You don't see that anymore. Which is a real shame, because they don't really even do budget games anymore. You know, you used to always get like the Platinum series or whatever on the PlayStation, or, you know, the budget kind of re-releases of Amiga and PC titles and things like that. You don't get that anymore. They don't do that. That kind of died out with the PS3 with the sort of PlayStation classics. So yeah, it's changed days, and I suppose everything's kind of got to move on a little bit. But yeah, I loved Compilations. It ticked my boxes full of stuff box, and it opened me to so many games that I would never have played otherwise, which is great, and that's why I love them. You know, because you always got a mix, like on this, you know, you've got Desert Strike that I loved, you know, arcade shooter. Sensi Soccer I like playing. I don't like football, but I enjoy playing Sensi Soccer. Pushover I had with my Amiga 600, which was a great puzzle game, but things like Cool Spot and the Humans I'd never played. And you know, a sort of platformer. Cool Spot's obviously a sort of platformer, and the Humans is a sort of strategy type affair. So these are games that I would never have really played. You know, I wouldn't have went out and bought I might have bought Cool Spot right enough, but I wouldn't have bought the Humans or something, or, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, getting to try these different games, you know, for not a lot of money was great. And I do miss Compilations, and it's, you know, I've still got many Compilations. I've got a lot more than this, but I didn't want this to be a 3-hour long video. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you thought about Compilations. Did you like getting them, or, you know, did you think they were cheap and nasty? What were your favourite Compilations, and why? You know, what games was there any hidden gems that you found, like Flying Shark, for example, that you would never really played, but, you know, they were on a compilation, so you had them anyway, and you thought, this is brilliant, you know? I'd love to hear your little stories and things about what your favourite Compilations were. So yeah, that's going to do it, because my throat's drying up. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, and I shall see you next time.